James, your presentation is very timely today. I was just reading a article in today's Business North Carolina, and they were talking about with the labor shortages that they recently went to a restaurant, and instead of having a waiter, they had to order the counter, they got a pager, and because they didn't have enough people to wash all the dishes, they were using disposable aluminum containers.
Sorry to hear that, but I do know that, like, with the proliferation of takeout, that's just becoming more and more common, that single-use packaging is just proliferating across the country.
Imagine what it's going to look like for our landfills.
Yeah, and our oceans, unfortunately.
True. It's just interesting that I opened up Business North Carolina and there's it was. Like, how timely is that?
Yeah.
All right, James, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. It is a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much for coming out, supporting small business and entrepreneurship in our community. We have a great presenter today. We have James Wilson with ReUser that's going to come and talk a little bit about his business. So without further ado, James, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, so I'm one of the founders of ReUser. So we're making it easier to reuse takeout packaging, saving organizations money and reducing their environmental impact by keeping containers in circulation longer. So I'm the CEO of ReUser. So we're working. I have a background in leading technology solution, the development of platforms. I previously ran an event creation platform and worked with the customers that use the platform to help understand their needs, and worked with the development team to build out those requirements into features that could then be implemented. And working hand in hand with my co-founder is the CTO, who has a background in complex technology development, to build this solution. We both have a background. We've known each other for 9 years now, when we met each other as freshman year roommates, and have remained best friends ever since, as we worked on projects together over the past. So we're tackling this big, massive problem of single-use packaging waste and making it easier for organizations to reuse. So many groups have gone to adopting reusable container programs. However, these programs currently are very leaky, with many of leading as a result of not being able to expect that their members actually continue to return their containers. So I was a student at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, where we had reusable containers on campus. But unfortunately, even though I loved reusing my container, I often forgot to bring it back. I would go to the dining hall the next time to get food and then forget it in my room. And at the end of the year, I had 4 or 5 containers that had accumulated there. I talked to the university, and it turns out they were losing thousands of containers every year that they were then needing to replace, reducing the benefit of this and costing them a ton of money in this process. So many of these organizations have just turned to using single-use containers to not have to deal with continuing to keep them in circulation. So what we're doing is we're building a platform to make it easier to reuse this packaging. So we provide a mobile app to make it super easy for members to exchange their container for a digital token on their smartphone and keep it in circulation. Technology to track how the containers are being used, and help the organizations avoid these repurchase costs, and ensure that each container reaches its full environmental and cost potential, where it can be used 1,000 times or more, helping to reduce 1,000 containers from getting thrown out, the emissions involved with that, and also saving organizations 50% or more on their takeout packaging costs over the course of keeping these containers in use. So how it works is a member would, when they're done using their container, they'll go to a drop-off location, scan a poster there through our mobile app, and scan the container that they're dropping it off, redeeming it for a digital token that they can then keep on them until the next time that they need to get a new container. This way, they don't have to carry around that bulky container on them at all times. They can just have them have it on them with their smartphone. Each time that once they then need to get a new container, they just scan that pickup location and the container that they're receiving and exchange that token for a new container. Each time that that scan occurs through our system, we track that and collect that through our database to help organizations identify how the containers are being used in circulation and identify when accounts are continuing to fail to return these containers, so they can engage in follow-up behavior to ensure that they continue to be reused and continue to reach their full benefit. So we just launched our pilot program with Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut at the very beginning of February. They were previously replacing their entire inventory of containers every year to enable students to reuse. And we're making it easier for students to bring back these containers and help them give transparency into how these containers are being used in circulation. We started off with with a small group, but we've now rolled out to they're only using reusable containers with us at their Summerfield Dining Hall, where we're now seeing over 500 students reusing with us every day, which is super exciting to see how much waste they're reducing through that process. So how our business operates is, so we charge organizations an annual subscription per container that we track for them to help make sure that they avoid the need to replace these containers and keep those containers in circulation longer. For any program that actually doesn't have reusable containers already, we also offer our partner containers to them to be able to get them up and running with our system to help them start reusing even faster. We also built this entire system on a real-time API to provide integration solutions for large enterprise clients that wanted to embed reusing into what the programs that they already run. So how we're starting with this is we're initially targeting organizations with dining halls, meaning large so universities, corporate campuses, and hospitals that have cleaning solutions already, or like large dishwasher facilities to be able to clean them, and also places where members regularly revisit to be able to return these containers and most easily facilitate reuse in the beginning, and working with them to with the sustainability groups there to get launched, and also connect with their third-party dining services such as like Aramark and Sodexo to help launch, help them save money and relay these benefits to their organizations across the country. We're then working to, as they onboard them, enable all of the members of their organization and their students or employees to be able to start reusing all at once, and provide bastions within their community of where people are already engaging in this behavior of reuse and familiarizing with that process, to then work on promoting this to restaurants and providing infrastructure around that to support restaurants being able to switch over from takeout packaging, from single use to reusable takeout packaging as well. So how this currently looks in the space, the vast majority of groups are still using single-use takeout packaging through groups like Cisco that already are providing food packaging and other food products to these sorts of organizations. They're not currently locked into providing reusable containers though, so they're still able to provide them distinctly. One of the biggest groups that we've seen in the market of organizations with dining halls to start has been Aussie. They provide a hardware-based solution to help collect the containers and exchange a token like once they're dropped off. However, unfortunately, these are very expensive solutions, and they still fail to actually prevent people from forgetting to return their containers, and still lead to high container loss over time because they fail to actually remind the students to bring these containers back or these members in operation. So we provide a technology-first solution, can be adopted anywhere to help track these reusable containers and understand how many times they're being used in solution to make sure they continue to be reused and save these organizations money. As I mentioned with the market that we're initially targeting, we're targeting these universities, hospitals, and corporate campuses, and looking to expand out from there to help restaurants come on board within their community and work to change this global food packaging market from single use to reuse. So looking at our financials for a bit, so our COGS is a little bit higher than most software groups to start, because we also, a large part of the revenue that we drive is still coming from this resale activity of providing the reusable containers to organizations that don't have them to start. But as we start to bring on more clients that have reusable containers already, or would like to license our software, we expect that to go down even more so and reduce our cost of operation. So far, so we've launched, we partnered with 2 reusable container manufacturers. We've launched our MVP app on the Google Play and Apple App Stores. And we have a paid pilot running with Wesleyan University, with a very delighted customer there, where we're now preparing to go live with another 2 clients in the Midwest, and have developed this great partnership with Creative Dining Services out here to be able to partner with more of their organizations and bring their clients online to reuse. So what we're looking to do next is bring this to an even larger scale of operations. So we're now looking at larger clients like big public universities like Michigan State in my area, and also be able to help even these larger scale clients fill their needs and provide a solution for them to help them continue to reuse, while also improving the experience that we're providing these members to help them to make it more fun to reuse and reward the process of continuing to return these containers so they continue to drive back to this behavior. So we're looking to, we'd love introductions to more groups that might be able to start this, but we're also wondering, so some of our solution is currently based on QR code technology. We've explored a lot of solutions out there, but would always love to poll the audience and see hear from people as to if they have any solutions that they've recently ran into for technology that might be able to easily facilitate this. Love to hear from you. And then also thinking about, so we've initially targeted organizations with dining halls as a market, but would love to hear if there's other groups within that also might be able to come on board quickly and reduce their own waste by reusing. And then maybe thinking around as to how we can continue to incentivize this and make this a better experience for all involved in the process to continue to reuse. And that's it for me today. Love to meet you all and happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
So James, if I heard you correctly, your part is the software that actually, when I've used it, I can scan it and then they know that I need to give me a token. But you don't do the distribution of the containers, nor are you responsible for the returning of them. That's correct. Yeah, so we do a little bit of the distribution component, being that like we can provide like the containers to organizations to get them running, but we're not facilitating the collection or doing the cleaning of them to get them between those. We connect directly with the dining service at these organizations to help enable those components. So we're primarily functioning as the technology layer to help track the usage of these containers to make sure they continue to be reused. One of the suggestions I would have, if you're looking for people to market your software to, are go to those, you know how they always have every year the top list of employers to work for? Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't catch that. You know how each year we have that top list of employers to work for? Go with those, because I would start there, because these organizations are ones that tend to be tuned in to people and not just bottom line profits to begin with. And they're a little bit more caring and concerned, and you're probably going to find a better advocate for, you know, saving the environment, reducing costs, but really saving the environment. And plus those larger organizations tend to have the dining facilities on premises. And I think that's what really helps your redeeming or, turning back in the stuff, because if I leave there, chances are me, like you said earlier, bringing it back are not as strong. But if I work there and I go and eat there and it's just down the hall, I could have a drop-off place, I'm more likely to redeem that. So I would definitely take a look at that top list of places to work, because they're not just noted for profitability. They're known for wanting to take care of their employees and make it a very pleasant place to work.
I really appreciate the suggestion. Thank you. Makes a ton of sense.
Hi, James. I'm Deborah Franklin. And I guess I was thinking about your incentives, and I think I missed what do the students do with the tokens?
Great question. So the token gets redeemed onto their smartphone. So then they have it on their smartphone as a container to be redeemed for the next time that they pick up a container. So when they actually might be easier to demo this process just really quickly. So here is like what a container looks like in real life. So I have a quick example of sorry, that was on my home screen. So this is the mobile app, just quickly. So at the very top here, we show like a token count that just tracks the number of tokens or number of containers that they have able to be redeemed. So when a student goes to redeem or to get a new container, they scan one of our pickup container posters that has a QR code on it here. And also provides instruction as to like how to do the process. They scan the QR code and then they scan the QR code on their container. And then once that's done, it gives a big confirmation screen that can be shown to the dining team themselves there that's providing the container that the token was successfully redeemed. It subtracts 1 from their token count to denote like 1 less token available to them for a container because they now have a container out. And then like when they drop it off, they receive a token from that process to keep on them for the next time they need a container.
Okay, great. And then the second question is the pilot program. Are the containers the only device that the students can use for their food, or can they still just use a one-use?
Great question. So at the Summerfields Dining Hall, they are now only using reusable containers. So there was a point where it was a hybrid option where students could either choose to use single-use or reusable containers. But the organization saw the cost benefits of just fully switching to reusables and are now only using reusables at that location for this pilot.
Let's go back to Deborah's question for a moment, the one about the tokens, what you can redeem them for. So basically, redeeming them allows me to get another container.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about, like with schools, potentially maybe like working out a deal where they could redeem so many tokens like toward the bookstore, something like that? That would encourage me to turn it in instead of just getting another container. If I could use it like as a discount toward the bookstore or points towards something in the bookstore, that might encourage me more to redeem it.
That's a great point. Thank you for suggesting that. So for the token itself currently, we're just looking at this as like a one-to-one redemption process. But I think outside of that, we can certainly still track like we track within their account already, like the number of times that they've reused, and maybe have like a separate point system that could accumulate based on like the number of times that they reuse to be applied towards like rewards through the app of like showing different badges, but also be able to be redeemed like at the bookstore for different items. And we've seen interest already from like some of the clients that we've talked to about having for rewarding students for like continuing to engage in this behavior. And I think that's working with the bookstores or these groups would be a great place to facilitate that over time as well. Thank you.
And I like Deborah's idea that you could also use it toward like a free drink or something at the dining hall or something. I know some of them have plans already where you pay flat rates, but oftentimes you have other facilities on campus, like a student union where you can just get like a drink or a sandwich or something real quick. That might be another way to incentivize them.
Certainly.
So James, I love the idea. So I'm a little bit unclear as to how exactly this works for the student. So the student, does it cost the student to get the first plate? So there's an incentive for them to turn that back in, correct?
That's a great point. And that's actually, no, thank you. I probably should have covered this a little bit more in the presentation itself, but so that depends a little bit on the organization that we work with at this point, because we're not directly charging groups through the app at this point. What we do is track that behavior to help the organization decide like how they want to engage with this process and continue to reuse. At Wesleyan currently, how it works is they provide students a free token upfront within their account to start reusing. And then if they fail to return a container or like, they then need to pay to purchase a new one to continue to engage in that process. However, as I just mentioned, that becomes more of a barrier to reuse than by needing to pay to have a reusable container and participate in the program. So what we're actually looking to pivot towards in the future is a library loan style system where you don't need to pay, where students don't need to pay upfront for their token or for participating in reuse. But if they fail to return a container over a certain amount of time, we can provide that account information to the organization for them to be able to charge the student account, or like for the employee to be able to charge, for the employer to be able to charge the employee that's failed to return the container based on like the set window that they have failed to return it. But by that way, like it would disincentivize the action of failing to return a container, but not actually prevent, still keep the barrier low to actually participating in reuse.
I'll tell you what, I'm listening to you and I got broken away for a little bit and I missed a couple of the questions, so I hope I don't go over everything, but I'm really confused. This whole process, you know, when you say, how does this start? What is the student's involvement? And it takes you 3 or 4 minutes to explain it. And we seem to be going into rabbit holes here. And I think it's a very simple process that what you're describing, but you're losing your audience here because to be honest with you, I'm not sure what your direction is, what your recommendations are, or anything else. I think it's a great idea. I think you got the right target audience. But I'm really concerned about 2 things. Number 1 is the ability to explain the process. And number 2 is the actual cost savings of, say, the cafeteria. It seems to me that you can get a, 1,000, paper containers, for a very low cost, and you're receiving plastic containers, which I assume they have to wash and then put back into circulation. That's quite an expense, and I'm not so sure that it is a money-saving thing. And I'd like you to explain to me why that is, because it seems to, I buy rolls of paper towels, and I suppose I could use cloths and put them in the washing machine and take them out and then fold them and then stack them and then store them and everything else. But the paper towels are a heck of a lot easier. So I would like to know if, I would like you to explain the cost savings to the business. And I really think there needs to be a simpler way to explain the process to us lay people who are not in that business.
I appreciate the feedback, Ken, and thank you. So that's certainly something that I'll work to improve, to improve that breakdown of the process itself, for to help you understand and any audience better understand this moving forward. So regarding the costs, so it is a little bit dependent on the type of packaging that they're previously using. We've seen a lot of single-use packaging is still can range from like 25 cents per package to, even at scale, to even something like 40 cents for different types of plastic packaging. Over the course of their lives, even though the reusable container it is a higher upfront cost to use it, but these containers can be used 1,000 times, so that can actually be amortized pretty quickly to actually be to be less than a penny per use over the course of their life. The biggest cost per use from reusing actually comes from the energy costs from the cost of from washing containers. That can range a little bit depending on the organization, but we've still seen it break out to around 11 to 12 cents per use. So over the course of a container's life, it really is just 11 or 12 cents per reuse, versus single-use packaging is often double that for organizations even still buying at scale. Styrofoam is ridiculously cheap. That's something that we're not really trying to compete with on just like a cost basis. However, there is still something that many organizations are going away from it just because of like the growing health concerns like through that. And that basis, we talk more about like the health benefits of reusable containers and the better container experience versus just like the cost savings at this point. But still, the vast majority of single-use options that we've compared to, it still saves money through that process.
Yeah, I think it's I like the container idea, and I'm one who is starting to get, as old as I am, starting to get more used to doing reusable things. Here's where the problem I have is, if I was an investor in this company or something like that, is that I would see very limited growth in terms of institutions and organizations. You're dealing with students who are readily accepting of this idea of reusable products. And you're also dealing in a very confined area in terms of using school cafeterias and things like that. How do you branch out more to a public setting? How do you get people to respond to that? We have so many people now who are not eating in. You know, if you go to the fast foods, nobody's going inside, they're taking them home. Do you see an expanded aspect to this? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not saying, I can tell you right now, I would take your product if they included it in my food, and it would go right into my cupboard after I clean it, because it's a great leftover container. And yeah, I like it, but I just don't see this working out of a confined area.
I appreciate the feedback. So what we're looking at to bring it to more of a public space is we're starting with these organizations with dining halls to start, because they have large member bases that they can already onboard to familiarize with reuse, with also these advantages of facilitating the return like within those areas most quickly. But we are working to build like infrastructure around these communities to also enable easy drop-off points like within communities and facilitate return, to then at the next scale work on providing that redistribution mechanic, and work on providing containers back to groups as they're dropped off in other locations, to make sure that they're able to continue to reuse and provide reusable inventories to their customers. So we're starting with these groups because they already have these large bases, but then we're looking to scale out to restaurants that are clear big problems for single-use takeout packaging currently, and don't really have a mechanism to be able to enable people to regularly bring it back to their location alone.
James, I think you'll have to incentivize people to bring it to your drop off. So in other words, you can incentivize them by not charging them again. So I totally see the need for this. So is this container made from plastic?
So there's a couple different, there's a lot of different container options for reusable containers. The two that we're providing currently are based on more of a polypropylene plastic material that's more durable. It can still be used 1,000 times or more. However, those are just like the ones that we've partnered with at this point. We've also seen some groups like work to do it with like a stainless steel that can be used even longer than that. However, we started with these two partners to start just because they are a much cheaper price point of entry to start reusing, whereas like this plastic material is like these can be like $4 a unit versus a stainless steel one like often has an upfront cost of more around like $20, which is then just becomes harder for an organization to make that initial upfront purchase and would become even more expensive for like groups like restaurants to adopt at the beginning. That is something that we're looking to break out that cost down the road and still be able to provide the solution to groups that would like to use stainless steel containers as well.
So, and there's a lot of talk about styrofoam today. So, you know, they're saying it's staying in our landfills for 250,000 years. So, but there's some other businesses that are stepping up that are using actually the root of a mushroom. Do you see that as a competition?
To some extent. So I think that there's I've heard that there are other groups like working to have more viable like biodegradable options at the end of their life. One of the big things that those are still like very expensive on a per use basis though, which one of the big benefits from there's reusing process with these like more durable materials is that they can they would actually still like be cheaper per use than those sorts of options. So like, fortunately, compostable is often the thing that gets compared to the most currently. Oftentimes, a lot of those containers are at least 40 cents per package for an organization to use. And actually still, even though like there might be less emissions generated in the action of creating those the action of creating like a mushroom-based container, there's still like heavy emissions involved like in transporting them to their location. And that's something that by continuing to reuse something in solution, you're then avoiding the need to transport them over and over again to like across the country, or a lot of times single-use packaging comes from China, is then like transported via freight and accumulates even more emissions from that as well.
So I love the idea of reusable, James. I really, truly do. So is the plastic that you're making the containers from, is that, you know, we hear a lot of, plastic's one of the controversial things. So is it a safer plastic to use? And how long do you anticipate one of your reusable containers to last?
So great question. So each of these containers is a number 5 plastic polypropylene that is NSF certified, that to avoid harmful issues with eating off of the container, they're certified that they're food safe and able to be regularly consumed off of again and again. So this one can certainly be used up to 1,000 times and be reused to that point, avoiding the waste of 1,000 containers, avoiding the emissions involved in manufacturing, transporting, and disposing of 1,000 containers as well. With another one of options, it can be used 2,000 times or more. With stainless steel, there's very little limit to that as to how many times they can continue to be reused. So that's something that we're certainly considering, like as we provide this to our group, it's to any client that we want to make sure that health is first and foremost present, that this isn't something that's gonna hurt them in the process of as they provide them to their audience. However, we've feel safe based on the different measures that have been implemented and tested around these containers to be able to do it again and again. And these containers have also been studied for well over a decade now to see that they're still very good to eat and use in operation.
James, Selena asked in chat whether they were microwavable. And to follow up that question too, how do you wash them? Can they go in a dishwasher or something like that, or wash by hand?
Great question. Yeah, so each of the plastic containers that we have is certainly microwave safe. It's a little bit difficult too, just because like of the size of the container itself. Of like, you can do it closed, but oftentimes, like this is like a 9x9x3 container, and as you open it, that's then going to be like 18 inches that needs to like fit within a microwave. But it still can be microwaved and is still safe to do so even after and use to wash and do so afterwards. Regarding your question about like washing these containers, they are dishwasher safe and can be washed the exact same way a plate or any other sorts of dishware would. For these organizations, there's no other technology needed in order to clean these containers that would be different from cleaning their plates and use. They just fit in the dishwasher, oftentimes at a scale of like a cafeteria on a college campus. They have these big trays that they then go through like in a conveyor belt to get washed through. They just get washed the exact same way a plate would. Similarly, like at a dishwasher that's within just like at home, like you could just do it like in an L shape, like in the corner of your dishwasher itself.
So why'd you start this business?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I'm in the midst of the pandemic, like many others, was starting to just see how much plastic waste like I contributed to like through my daily life. Like I was increasingly frustrated at just how much groceries and my takeout packaging was continuing to contribute to this growing plastic waste crisis that I was acutely aware of. With I'd done my own research and seen that in 2018, China decided that they would no longer import plastic waste or plastic from the US. This was something that had been a long time coming, but also made me realize, oh, wait, we're sending our plastic recycling to China. Why is that happening? And saw that unfortunately, like a lot of recycled plastic today is not actually recycled, but actually just sent somewhere else for someone else to deal with. And wanted to work on a better solution for helping groups to keep these in circulation. I thought back to my time as a Wesleyan student and realized, hey, we were using reusable takeout containers 5 years before. Like, why are these not getting used in more and more places? So started talking to restaurants and asked them like why, like about like their own packaging, like what their costs were. Started diving into like their actual costs that they were facing on like a per use basis, and also asked them like why they weren't using reusables. And again just came back to they couldn't expect their customers to actually return their containers to them. So then started talking to Wesleyan about their own program and realized that they still had issues there and wanted to start from the root of that problem and work on making it easier in solution and for them to keep these containers in use longer. Because ultimately, I see the plastic waste crisis as one of the biggest issues that our planet is facing today, and want to do whatever I can to make sure that that we have a future to fight for, and that we're not destroying our ecosystems by continuing to let these harmful products that also still like don't degrade themselves end up in our environment and end up in whatever we consume.
Hey, James, great product idea. And I can definitely feel how passionate you are about the product. What's one of the key challenges that you see with this product and the process of this product?
This is a great question, Jesse. Thank you. I think still is the fact that there's a big education component needed to this, that unfortunately many people that reuse is not a common thing that they do on a day-to-day basis. So as we start to go to more and more places, we need to ingrain that behavior like over time, and like have strong training around the programs we operate to help them come on board and understand why the system is better and why it actually has a positive impact on the area, and why it's the better solution to do for many more aspects moving forward. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I see, and I'm sure we'll run into more hurdles as we continue to get up and running with more groups. But that's the biggest thing that we're looking to work through and make this as easy as possible for our clients moving forward.
I agree with you, James, because as you know, we are a disposable culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's who we are. That's how we were raised. That's where the environment is today. So the education piece of why this product is so important to change that culture, I think that's probably how you've got to sell your product.
I think what's fascinating though is you talk about this being in our culture, and you actually look like 40 to 50 years ago, and we were reusing things. Like
Yes, we were.
We were reusing like soda cans, we were reusing milk bottles. And I just saw a great study on it that like almost all packaging like 50 years ago was reusable for soda products. But unfortunately, like there's been a proliferation within people's minds that based on the packaging and the materials that are provided, that it is just best to throw away. But I do see as well alongside this that there's a growing movement within our own country to have a bigger focus on the environment. I certainly can't say that that's everybody, but there is this much more heightened environmental concern as we and as a discussion point throughout a lot of decisions that are being made moving forward. That we want to make sure that we're involved in that conversation and can provide the clear resources to anybody that looks to use our program as to understand what these benefits are and understand how this program works.
I mean, what better way to change a culture or educate people than to start with educational institutions? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I think that's probably where your good start's going to be. And you're right, years ago, we were recycling just about everything. Then we got away from that. And now we're back to recycling, and that's what started waste management. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so thanks for sharing your product and your vision. I think you got something here. I really do. I think that's the education piece, is to get it out and let people know that you can reuse these containers. I mean, I throw away containers myself, but if I had an opportunity to reuse this container, I probably would do it.
Glad to hear. Thank you.
So I totally agree, James. Awareness brings change, and sometimes change isn't easy. So I really, truly love the idea of reusable, but I do think I'm one that believes that you're going to have to incentivize people to get them to buy into it. But I am seeing more people today carrying, when they go to the grocery store, they're carrying their own bags. So we're not filling up our landfills with the trash bags. You know, that is detrimental to our environment. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
I
I
really
agree with,
appreciate the support.
and I agree with both of them. I agree with Jesse talking about, you know, and Lori about you need to appeal to people wanting to have a better planet, not wanting to destroy and get taken over by one giant landfill. So you got those groups that you can appeal to on that basis. But then again, I go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago as well. You got to incentivize because, you know, I remember when I was a kid, we would take back the Pepsi bottles to the store, these big old bottles, but we did that because why? We got money back. You used to have people who did nothing but collect cans on the side of the road and bottles because they get money back. You know, now you can't keep steel or metal out because somebody's going to steal it, so they can go sell it back. So that's why I'm saying you need to hit things like the bookstores or the free food or beverage or something. You need to work those deals out so that you're going to have more and more people do that.
Oh, certainly. And yeah, that's one of the great things that I'm very excited about with this program is we're like, I know data gets a bad rap at this point, but by collecting this information, like we're able to give the organization access to help them better understand like how students are engaging in this behavior and can provide those rewards to those people that continue to reuse in that process. And I certainly intend to, like with this, the next iteration of it is essentially providing like these loyalty programs that by continuing to reuse at these places over and over again, you're showing like the restaurants that you're participating with that you're a loyal customer to them and that you're continuing to save them money through their process of their packaging costs. So by doing so, like please like incentivize the people that participate in this program to have a discount for coming back to you and coming back to your restaurant, for reusing at universities, have a discount for for people continuing to reuse like at the dining hall or at the bookstore. And I think that's we have the fundamentals for that right now. And now it's really just about building and implementing to make this this process beautiful and easy to operate.
Well, you could also potentially take out of your income. You can also provide rewards to yourself. For example, a T-shirt says, "Hey, I recycle" or whatever, and of course, what's on the back? Your logo and your brand. So
Yep.
you're getting the advertising out of it as well, you know, and so you can do some of those rewards without, you know, having the client. I would do both. It wouldn't be an or, but it's a good way to get your name out there, you know, free advertising, because on the front I recycle, but on the back, you know, there's my logo.
I love that. Thank you. It's certainly something that we've considered, like we're considering like going with a leaderboard approach as people continue to participate and like show that they're highlight that like competitive nature of continuing to reuse. But I think for participating and like have these like challenges like throughout the course of the year that as someone will get the opportunity to win a ReUser t-shirt that's a free t-shirt to them, but also will then be help to showcase our brand around campus and other places as well. Great idea.
And I like the challenges because there are competitive people out there, but then there are also people who like to compete with themselves. So it could be that, you know, when you've earned X number of tokens, then you get that as well. So you can compete against others, but you can also compete with yourself.
Oh, certainly.
And I do agree with Deborah, the hospitals and medical centers are a good place because I used to work in a hospital. And the nice thing about it, again, you eat lunch, and the same place you're eating lunch is where you're going to be the rest half of the day. So it's very easy to turn your container back in.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to connect with hospitals and get programs like this running there. I certainly see that they often still have dining services and they need a way to effectively like bring their containers or bring food to people across their building and bring them back. And so that I would love to talk with those groups to learn more. I have had conversations with corporate campuses and universities in the past, so I can speak most directly to how those dining programs like work in operation and how reuse could work there. We think that hospitals would be a great fit for this as well, and would love to talk with them about how their systems work and how we could most facilitate reuse at their locations as well to make sure that they also reap these benefits of reusing.
And let's not forget the plants and factories, because we can reduce their waste, and of course they're having to pay for their waste, and they're monitored on how much waste they produce. So we could help them as well. And again, anytime you're talking about somebody who's going to eat somewhere and they're going to stay on those premises, you have a greater chance of having it returned.
Certainly. Yeah, I also heard a statistic recently that from one of our clients that we were talking to, that their landfill costs over the course of this next year are going to go up by 35% for any landfilling that they're doing. So helping to avoid that disposal will help their bottom line and there as well.
Do we have any other questions for James? Well, if not, James, I'm going to take the last question. What can this community do for you? How can we help?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So would love to connect with this community more, to learn more about like the groups that could reuse in your area, and work towards helping to get talking with more groups and learning from them how we can implement reuse within your own communities and help more people come online to reusing. That's the biggest place right now, is just working to get more programs up and running. And then as we learn from that and have those in operation, I think we'll learn even more as to where our biggest problems with scaling will come, and how we can continue to take this to be the bigger and bigger vision that it can possibly be.
Well, thank you so much for the fantastic presentation, James. I can't wait to see where ReUser goes. I feel like it's we've just barely heard about it. I think we'll learn more about it in the future, and I think communities will embrace your idea. So thank you so much for the fantastic presentation. I thank everybody for joining us today. Hope to see you back next week. You guys have a great Wednesday. See ya.